Hello everybody, here we are today and we're going to be doing another playoff preview between the Edmonton Oilers and the Los Angeles Kings. So before we start with it, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. And I would like to apologize early. I'm running off of 2 hours of sleep as I'm trying to get all these playoff previews done, and this is the final one, so if I'm, lacking a little bit of energy, I apologize. But anyway, here we are kicking off this series, wondering how we got here. The Edmonton Oilers were able to get here despite a rocky start to the season. Jay Woodcroft was, of course, fired. They bring in another coach, and they are able to put together a really good period where they're one of hockey's hottest teams and push for maybe even the Pacific title if the Canucks wouldn't have had such a hot start for their first 55 games, and the Oilers look very dangerous entering the playoffs. As for the Kings, they were also a team that lost their coach during the course of the regular season, still able to make the playoffs. They had a really bad month and a half, 7-week stretch from early December into late January where they were playing atrociously. They've had some ups and some downs, but here they are again for the third straight season in the playoffs, where they, for the third straight season, play the Oilers in the first round. It's crazy, but it is exciting. With that being said, what are some storylines to watch out for in this series? So the first talking point is who is going to provide goals for the Oilers besides McDavid and Draisaitl. Looking at these two, you know that they're going to be a huge part of the offense. You expect a lot of goals from number 29 and 97, but I got to be honest, there are plenty of other players capable of providing goals for this team and just getting offense. Connor McDavid didn't even have a crazy amount of goals compared to what he's been able to do before. He had 32 in 76 games played, which is half of what he had a couple of seasons ago when he finished with 64 goals. There's been other guys that have gone out there and played a big role, and I'm looking at a guy like Zach Hyman, as he had 27 goals his first year with the team, 36 last year, and then 54 this season, if I got that correct. I'm tired again. The great thing about Hyman, despite whether or not you think he is a good player, just a guy that seems to be hanging around the net, he has been able to produce a lot of goals for this team. Again, over the past 3 seasons, he has an ability to get down to the net, and the Kings have been able to prevent that pretty well this year. If he's able to have a good series and get those goals down low, whether they're lucky or whether they are truly good goals, it's going to be big for the Oilers being able to advance and beat the Kings for a third straight season. He has 15 power play goals this year as well, so you got to watch out for that. He has 117 goals over his past 3 years, and it's just weird to me that people will constantly try to undermine him and talk about how he is not a good player. Anybody can do what he does. Hyman maybe isn't the McDavid level player, but he is having an impact for this team. Other guys too that I want to talk about, I got to give Evan Bouchard a little bit of love here. Bouchard had a really good year, basically able to double his career high for points, as he had 82 points in 81 games this season and finished with 18 goals, which was 5th in the league for defensemen. And I'm not really sure what's happening here to why he's able to score a lot of these goals, especially from center point, high slot. I don't know if Hyman's just getting traffic in front of the net, but 13 of those goals, again, come from way out there, and you would like to see that be able to happen, because if Hyman's, right there, and they're putting pucks on net, and it could either be tip-in, deflection, whatever, or it could be a Bouchard goal. You're really happy to see that there. Other names that could chip in here are obviously guys like Matthias Ekholm, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Evander Kane, all players that have a little bit different skill sets in what they bring to the table, but individuals that have seen success before and are still good players. And I guess really at the end of the day, the whole point here is to highlight the fact that this is not just a two-man team. There are a lot of players that can go out there and score goals for them, and I would say that this is one of the more dangerous scoring teams in the league, because if it's not going to be those two, who are you going to worry about out of the rest of the bunch? Probably Hyman, but still a lot going on there. The second talking point is, can Pierre-Luc Dubois get going in this series? Now, Pierre-Luc Dubois was traded from the Winnipeg Jets to the Los Angeles Kings and signed an 8-year extension. Things were good. They were very excited to bring him on in, clearly with that long of a deal, but he was coming off of back-to-back 60-point seasons. They were hoping that, again, they could see something positive here. However, he ends up hitting just 40 points on the season and is averaging about 16-ish minutes a night. Not something that you're super thrilled about. One of the weird things, too, is his minutes really do drop off after the first 10 games. There's some games where he will get, 19, maybe 20 minutes, but a lot of times you'll see it dip below 15 minutes a night, and there's some games where it's 12 or 13 minutes. He is not in a spot right now where if he performs poorly, he's going to be given more minutes. It's just a deal where he's probably going to continue to get a limited opportunity until he's able to prove himself. And he is a player that is good at getting zone entries for them and is one of their better rush threats. but I don't really know. I think one of the weird things about PLD this year is he's had good expected goal results or expected goals for percentages with some of the lines that he's been on, but actual poor results. And that's something to watch out for here, as he is an individual that should be playing a big role for this team. And if not, that's going to be a problem for not just now, but the long-term future. I'm going to be honest here too. I don't look at this series as the end-all be-all for him. I don't see this as the remainder of his 7 years on his deal that I think he has left. But I do view this as the potential to have a statement to the fans, to the organization, saying, you guys wanted me here. I've been able to perform at points in my career, especially in the playoffs. I want to be able to go in. I want to be able to have a hat trick. I want to be able to be this future pillar for you guys, to be able to start this new era of Kings hockey, where not only we're making the playoffs, but we are a team looking to go deep. And I don't exactly know if that's going to happen in this series, but it would probably make Kings fans feel a lot better in the offseason, because if things go poorly again in this first round, it's not going to be great. And he's dealt with a lot of line combinations this year, so I'm not exactly sure if that is kind of a problem here too. I do think and am hoping that he can bounce back next year, but clearly the Kings are focused on the playoffs at the moment. And then the third talking point is if third time's a charm for the Los Angeles Kings. So in 2022 and 2023, these two teams met in the first round, and guess what? The Oilers advanced the first time in 7 games and last year in 6 games. And one thing that I kind of noticed here in the games that the Oilers tended to win, they were blowouts. They were, the 7-2, the 8-4 games, the 9-2 game, I think was the 2022 season. They're just able to go out there and flex their offensive game and show that they are able to score a lot of goals. Whereas when the Kings win, for the most part, it's going to be a closer game. I do think they had a 4-0 win at one point in the 2 seasons that they played in the playoffs against the Oilers. But still, if you're a Kings fan, it's probably going to have to be a uncomfortably close win compared to a blowout. Whereas the Oilers, when they play, you probably have a good feeling that they're on. They're going to be able to put things away probably after the first 20 or 40 minutes. That's kind of concerning. And for the season series, you'll probably be aware, if you're a Los Angeles Kings fan, that the Oilers did take the series 3-4 in this span. 3 wins out of 4 games is going to be a potential indicator that the Oilers are going to be able to go out there and again take care of business, although one of those losses for LA was via the shootout. I look at this Kings side, and it doesn't even come down to the season series. I just think it comes down to, again, consistency. Some of these teams, especially when you're looking at the wildcard teams, unsurprisingly, you get a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde effect. Looking at LA, you weren't really sure if they were going to go out there and win 4 games in a row or lose 4 games in a row. And like I talked about earlier, the 7-ish weeks from early December into late January where they were underperforming really just took them out of being a contender, possibly even for the division. You got to think the first part of the year into early December, they were in the top 2, I believe, for the Pacific Hunt before they ended up running into a wall, where over their 24 games in that 7-week run, they went 6-11-7. 6 wins out of 24 games is going to be a killer for anything you're trying to build in terms of momentum. They had to play catch up, and from what we've seen, again, they will put together some wins, but guess what? They'll also put together some losses. You're going to need the better side. You're going to need the winning side if you're going to beat the Oilers here, because if not, it's going to be a 3rd straight season where you end up going home early against the same side. And that's just got to be about as frustrating as it gets in professional sports. So overall, what are my thoughts on this series? I think it's going to be a fun one. The Kings are able to limit goals. The Oilers are able to score a lot of goals. And there is that playoff familiarity. The Kings are looking for some revenge. They're looking for some payback. And they're kind of a weird team. Again, the Kings just have a weird kind of mentality about how they want to use goalies and what kind of goalies they bring in. You've got a 36-year-old Cam Talbot that's able to have a way better year than I expected, and a 31-year-old David Riddick that is his backup. And things have gone relatively well for them over the course of the season. I just don't know. They have a very weird mindset on how they get their goalies, but they do what they do, and it all works out. I feel like for the Kings, they know it's going to be a tall task, but the Oilers, on the other hand, are aware that the Kings like to make games uncomfortable. They are aware that they like to make things difficult to get into their zone, and it's going to be a series where getting into LA's zone will decide who wins this. Kind of sounds cliche, but if they're able to spend less time in their defensive zone, it's going to be better because the Oilers can put a lot of goals on the board real quick. So overall, who am I going to be picking for this series? I'm going to be picking the Edmonton Oilers in 6 games. I want to say that they win for a third year in a row. I don't know if it's the sleep deprivation that is causing me to just almost say things that I would never normally say because I'm not even sure if I agree with it. But I was going to say Oilers in 5, but I'm just like, man, do I really think it's going to happen? Or I think it's just 2 hours of sleep that I'm running on over the past like 26, 27 hours. I couldn't tell you at the moment, but what I do know is this. I don't think that the Kings are going to be able to get enough goals in the series, so you're going to really have to have close games. In those close games, I would just imagine that the Oilers are going to be able to score enough goals if that comes down to a 7-game series. I trust Edmonton more to score than I do the Kings to not allow them to score. 36-year-old Cam Talbot going to be in charge of this probably. Nothing against Cam. Obviously, Oilers legend when he played like 73 games for them in a season, but it's just not a recipe that I'm truly a fan of. Kings, they like their goalie situation, and they like it to be unstable. As for the Oilers, Stuart Skinner, I do have enough faith in, and this Oilers side is going to be getting offense from the blue line. They're going to be getting a lot of offense from their forwards. And you know what? Stuart might just go in there and get an assist as well. Whereas the Kings, I worry more about, is their top 6 going to be enough to be able to push this series the way they want to go? They're going to have to limit things defensively, and are they going to be getting enough offense from their blue line? And we already talked about everything going on in goal. I don't know. Oilers have just been a lot more impressive. The Kings have got to the playoffs, but they didn't impress me a whole lot with their 5-4 overtime win needed against Chicago to even get to this point. So anyway, these teams don't like each other. It goes back well beyond this to multiple decades previous to this, before I was born. And we're going to get to see who goes on to win this series in a tightly contested match. Who do you think will win and in how many games? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Check out my other playoff previews. I promise the other ones, the first 6 had a lot more energy as I wasn't so sleep deprived. But we are hoping, or I am hoping in this sense, that you enjoy them. Everybody, please make sure to subscribe. Again, if you're new, stay safe. Have a great night. And Eagle of Hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.